Hi there. It's February 12th, 2021. That means it's Darwin Day. If you don't know, Darwin Day is a day, an official holiday, in which we celebrate not only Charles Darwin, but that most exquisite of scientific theories, theory of evolution by means of natural selection. He was, of course, a co-discoverer with Alfred Russel Wallace, and this year I figured I would share with you 5 books that you can read on Darwin Day that are not about Darwin, the Galapagos Islands, Darwin's finches, or tortoises. Stick around after the intro and we will get into the books that I think will make Darwin Day a great day for you. And as always, please ignore the Twitch. Alright, we're going to start our list at number 5. And coming in at number 5 is Richard Dawkins' The Greatest Show on Earth, The Evidence for Evolution. This is probably the book that I would hold most responsible for getting me back into the field of biology and get me back into school. I read this about when it came out, and according to the imprint, it came out in 2009. I read this probably in 2010. It's a pretty good book. As you can see, the cover is brilliant. The hardcover edition has blue butterflies on it. It's a beautiful book. It is rather dense. It's not necessarily hard to read, not small type, and it's not a lot of actual hard to understand scientific words and jargon, but it is a lot of information packed into only what is about 400 pages. It covers everything from the origins of life and Charles Darwin to where we were as of 2009, and it's a very, very good book. It has color plates, as you can see. It has about 4 different sections of them. I'm sorry, 3 different sections of these color plates that really help to emphasize what the book is talking about. It is a book that I recommend that you read in chunks. So you would read, like, say, one segment out of chapter 1, and then you sit down and you kind of think about it. It's more of a academic style work than some of the others on our list. But I do recommend that you buy this. If there's one book about evolution specifically, I recommend this one. This is a very, very highly recommended book. I think it is wonderfully written. Do yourself a favor, read this one. Number 4 on our list comes from Amy Stewart. It is The Earth Moved on the Remarkable Achievements of Earthworms. This book is well received by many reviewers, including the Albuquerque Journal, Science News, the Sacramento Bee, and the Christian Science Monitor. It starts off with the author, Amy Stewart, holding a red wiggler worm from her compost heap and wondering how it manages to live with no eyes and no apparent self-defense mechanism. Like several other books in this list, it's quite funny and quite enduring in its writing, and it's very, very informative, especially if you're like me and you've never actually thought about really what it is that worms do in the environment or the ecosystem. This one comes in at a little over 200 pages. It's, again, not super small text. There's not really any jargon in here at all. It's really more of a personal journey with the earthworm and the author through the science and ecology of this wonderful animal that is so often overlooked, yet often essential, as all organisms are in an ecosystem. Coming in at number 3, Your Inner Fish by Neil Shubin. This is a great book, and it's also a great documentary from PBS with the same title, Your Inner Fish. What makes this book really unique and why it's on this list is it really primarily looks at kind of the human body, but it does so in a way that really kind of puts it in perspective into how we fit into evolution, where these things came from. It's a bit of a tangent, but one of the things you'll learn in this book is how we get parts of our bodies from other parts, something that's called exaptation. I believe it's called acceptation. So how we get our teeth, how we get our ear bones, how we get our stapes, malleus. This is also a very well-received book from the Financial Times, the Boston Globe, Nature, one of the premier science journals. This one comes in at, again, a little over 200 pages. It's not as personal as the last book in our list, but it is quite interesting and quite accessible, and it does feel like a journey that you go on with the author through the human body all the way back to Tiktaalik, which is that fish amphibian on the cover, one of the first tetrapods to really crawl out of the primordial swamps onto land, and now it's the reason I twitch and have to pay taxes, and we all have to do something productive or we get stared at. It's all because of this fish right here. Not necessarily a fish, but this is a great book. I highly recommend it. If you're not really a reader, that's okay. You can go to PBS. Last I checked, it was for free there. Just You're in Her Fish, and it's an amazing documentary. And for a PBS show, it has some pretty good graphics too. Number 2, in the same vein, is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, a new history of a lost world by Steve Brusatte. I always have trouble with his last name, so I apologize. Again, another highly praised book from Neil Shubin, author of You're in Her Fish. Book list, Carl Zimmer, just a really well received. This is more akin to The Greatest Show on Earth. This is a heavy book to read, mostly because of all the different dinosaur names. Of course, you have the traditional ones like Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, but you also have new ones that come from China. Let's see if I can find one and attempt to pronounce it. It also has these lovely illustrations at the beginning of each chapter. This one is Zhenyuanlong, I believe it is. So as you can see, it adds a different language that is hard for most English speakers to pronounce. At least I've had a good 32 years getting just kind of a grasp on the Latin they used. But it's a really good book. This goes over kind of all the history, not only of the dinosaurs from the rise just before the Triassic to the end of the dinosaurs. Actually, there is no end of the dinosaurs because they're technically birds. And then also through paleontology, and he does weave some personal anecdotes in here, but it is mostly a somewhat scholarly work that is nonetheless very interesting. Just again, make sure you read this in chunks and actually give yourself time to digest the information. If you're like me and my wife who are listening to this in the car when we go up to go skiing, you might actually spend your time Googling images of the dinosaurs he mentioned, because that's honestly a pretty cool thing to do. A lot of the new dinosaurs from the Chinese digs, which has been compared to a new renaissance of dinosaurs, as if I recall correctly. They're very, very beautiful animals. This is definitely a book if you want to know more about evolution, particularly of dinosaurs. This is a great book, and I highly recommend it. Now, for the number 1 book on our list. This is number 1 because I think it encaptures so much about what makes science, especially if you're working with biology, especially if you're working with animals, and how you kind of get there. It is The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elisabeth Torva Bailey. As you can see, this is a rather small book. It only comes in at, less than 200 pages. It's very easy to read. There's not much scientific jargon in here at all. It's a very personal, very intimate story. The narrative is set up as the author coming to know snails as she is convalescing back to health after a healthcare incident. Her friend actually brings her a wild, I think it's a rose, a flower of some sort, and there's a stowaway snail that she then becomes enamored with. And the reason I've chosen this is not only is it beautiful, like Edward O. Wilson says, it probably is. It's probably the most beautiful book I've ever read. But it really does capture what a lot of people who get into biology, especially with animals, what they really say got them into it, which is they kind of got to know a particular animal that they liked, and that captured their interest, and they learned more. And so this is not only a journey, her journey back to health, this is her journey to understand an animal that captures her attention, much like the Earth moved. And there, if you're going to read one book that's on this list that, you know, really makes science and biology and evolution and ecology important and beautiful and relevant, it's this one. Because, you know, it's a snail. It's something people don't really look at and as a relevant animal. Usually it's seen as a pest, and slimy and gross, but they're beautiful, they're important, they're intricate and complex, as are all living beings. And as with all living beings, if you look closely, you'll find out that just like us, it serves a purpose, and it's pretty cool. So again, if you read one book off this list, I suggest you make it this one. So that's my list of books that you ought to read on Darwin Day that aren't about Darwin. You see, it's kind of put together, it's kind of a thick list, a thick stack of books. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys do on Darwin Day? Do you go hiking? Do you go outside? Do you watch documentaries? Do you read books? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts and what you do on Darwin Day, and I will see you for Fly Fishing Fridays later today when I try to tie a fly. Until then, though, tight lines.